All right, to discuss this, we are now joined by Labour analyst Terry Bell. Mr. Bell, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. 11.9 million South Africans are unemployed in this country. Your reaction to that 34.4% unemployment figure?
Well, I'm shattered, but I expected it. And I sometimes feel, I don't know, that I'm playing a role on a continuing long playing record that goes over and over again, saying the same things over and over. You see, those figures don't even take account of the person who sits on a street corner regularly selling a few oranges and making maybe 10, 20 rand, or someone who gets one job a week. They are counted as employed. So if you added them as well, the unemployment rate, and we should always work, I think, on the expanded definition, is even much, much greater. It gives credence to that old expression that there are lies, damned lies, and then there are statistics. But our statistics are quite good. What it means is that they are frightening and they're quite conservative. And we should be desperately worried about this. What are we going to do? This comes in the same week, and I don't know if your listeners will have heard this, that ShopRite Checkers has decided that they're going to move towards cashierless checkouts in their supermarkets. Now, this was something that I wrote about in City Press on Fin24 5 years ago when I visited Europe and saw what had happened there. More jobs will be lost. Now, we've been there before, all before there, various industries, and this is going right back. The motor industry, the print industry, jobs are lost. Yes, we're going to train people. Some training was done, but overall, more and more jobs are being lost. And we can go back to 1949, to that great mathematician, the father of cybernetics, Norbert Wiener. He actually said we could use the machines, and this was before the coming of AI and all the quantum machinery of computing, which is now being introduced. Before that, he said we could actually use the machines to have a better life for all. Or else we could move into what I think he said was an industrial revolution of unmitigated cruelty. We're on the cusp of that now. And something has to be done. The politicians don't seem to realize it. The unions don't seem to realize it. They seem to be thinking still in those, well, think 1 term ahead, 1 year ahead, 5 years ahead, or till the next election. No one is planning for the long term. And we should never forget we're dealing with, forget about the number of unemployed, who do they look after? We have probably 5, 6, 7 million children under the age of 9. That's tomorrow's generation. They're going to be even worse off as we plunge more and more people into poverty.
Mr. Bell, you obviously painting a very dire situation there, and trust me, South Africans probably do realize the seriousness of the space we're in. In fact, many have called it a crisis. It's just that, as you said, there are just so many things that are exacerbating this right now. But perhaps let's talk about the implications of this, of these job losses for the fiscus and for the tax collection, as an example.
Well, you know, the only thing that salvaged the tax collection at this stage, as we all know, is because the mines, platinum, palladium, rhodium, iron ore, etc., our basic commodities, have had good prices on the world market, so the tax is coming. But the majority of the profits from those very mines have gone abroad to people who don't even know what a mine is, who just happen to own shares. So we need to look at this entire system, and we have to say, look, what is happening? We have here a potentially wealthy country, a country which probably today is still potentially food sufficient, although facing problems because of climate change. We need now surely a proper, comprehensive, overall, people-orientated set of policies, rather than continuing to patronize the wealthy, rather than continuing to allow, for example, on the tax front. In the old apartheid era, corporate taxes were, I think, 48%. Today, they're 28%. It doesn't, to my mind, make sense. What we have seen here, a lot of people have become much poorer. and are more desperate. But a tiny minority have become much, much richer. And it's not a question, in this case, of ethnicity, of white or black. It's a mixture. You actually have a situation globally where a tiny minority over the last 17 months, 18 months of this COVID-19 have actually increased their wealth enormously at the expense of massive job losses, not just in South Africa, but across the world. We need really to get together to think it through, not to start to attack various individuals or various little groups. We need to sit down and look at the overall problem and try to say, where do we go from here? Because if we don't sort something out, we're already in a terrible position. You were mentioning earlier on your program about gender-based violence. It's one of the aspects of a society that is being torn asunder. And part of that is from desperation caused by poverty, caused by the fact of lack of education, lack of help. It's a very, very dangerous situation we're on the cusp of. I still have hope. I still think we can do something about it, but we need to get together and we need to do something and do it soon. So far, those in charge don't seem to have a damn clue.
Exactly. Mr. Bell, perhaps a quick question I can squeeze in about 60 seconds or so. You mentioned comprehensive people-focused policy. Now, if we have to look at this 11.9 million South Africans that are unemployed, I think about 3 million of them could be probably sitting in the unskilled brackets. Of course, this 11.9 million people are those that are employable. We're talking about anything between 15 years old to about 60, 65 or 64 years old. Or such. But what are the practical things that will then make this comprehensive, people-focused policy more palatable and achievable if you had to look at who is behind these figures?
Even a very basic thing, we can go back to the Depression of the 1930s, which actually followed the Depression of the 1890s rather. But the point is, they then had massive public works programs, proper programs, not this part-time work thing that they have now with extended public works programs, where they had proper public works programs which actually gave training to people while at the same time employing them doing necessary infrastructure jobs. Now, this happened in various parts of the world, and we need to look and learn from that. That's one way. That's a stopgap measure towards perhaps moving towards a better, comprehensive, true change towards a comprehensive and truly democratic society.
All right, Mr. Terry Bell, thank you so much for your time and for your analysis this afternoon. Labour analyst there, Terry Bell.